think it's really important. We've heard about some networks where they've been doing phenomenally well. Chair may change and then it changes. Same terms of reference and that, and vice versa. Networks be struggling, a new chair comes in and it changes dramatically. So basic question, what makes an effective chair?
Yeah, I think that the chair is such an important role in any organization. And if I talk about a chair, first of all, a generic chair for a chair of an organization, then we may look specifically at the chair of a network, but learn from the principles. And what I like to share, Javed, is an acronym. It's split into two areas, and the acronym is ABC, so the ABC of a chair, and then LEAD, which helpfully helps us to remember what a chair should be doing, which is leading and co-facilitating with their peers what should be happening in a meeting. So if I use that acronym and took it into two stages, we can talk about A for ambassadorial, B for board, and C for CEO. And I'd probably start with that in a minute. And then lead talks about legacy, enthusiasm, authority, and decision.
Okay, I can remember that. So ABC, lead.
You
So if we start with the ABC.
ABC is about making sure we know what an effective chair is. And as I said earlier, the acronym talks about being ambassadorial, number one. What do I mean by ambassadorial? It's that representative of the organization to the internal and external stakeholders. So we want that person to be good at demonstrating what the purpose, the vision, what the organization and what your resource group might be aiming to achieve, and articulate that to all of the stakeholders that are interested. So whether that's managers, owners, lenders, employees, society, we want to make sure that they are able to demonstrate that. And when I talk about internal stakeholders, I'm talking about staff, I'm talking about the internal networks. So that first key function that a chair needs to be able to demonstrate, in my opinion, is that ambassadorial function. We move on then to the B. The B is about the board. And what I mean by that is running of the meetings. So we want to make sure that every meeting that is run has the right paperwork, has the right reporting mechanisms, and has everybody contributing collectively to the decision making, and not the chair always dominating, but sometimes letting people respond, but also having the ability to make sure that those voices that are not normally heard are heard equally, and those voices that are sometimes heard too much, we make sure that they're balanced, but giving everybody an opportunity to make sure that we can move the dial. So the chair is that facilitator of the board, and also the representation, the membership of that board, making sure you've got the right people in the right proportions. And we talk a lot about diversity of age, gender, ethnicity, the things you can see above a little iceberg, but the things below, like cognitive diversity, social and demographic background, and making sure that we understand the intellectual capacity that different people have. All of that also important for the chair to consider and build their team, so to speak. The final one is what I call the chief executive or executive relationship. You see, and I digress here very quickly. I remember speaking to a conference of company secretaries and saying to them that the most important roles in any organization is the chair and chief executive. I nearly got heckled off, Javed, because these were the company secretaries. So I now say there's three important roles: chair, CEO, and company sec. But anyway, the relationship between the chair and the CEO is so important to make sure the things that are being done at a strategic level are carried out and exercised at an operational level. So there's that supervision, there's that accountability, there's that support and stretching of both relationships. So those are the three things I think that are really important for us to get right. And do you remember? It's the A, B, C, ambassadorial, board, and chief executive.
Brilliant, thank you. And can I just pick up, so most race networks or ERG groups will have a chair. some have co-chairs and share it. How does the sort of the CEO role fit into that?
Yeah, so that's really important, because what we want to make sure there is a direct relationship to what this group is doing and where the accountability is. And sometimes we want to make sure that people who sit on the group are actually in the executive structure. Other times we want to make sure that they're just visiting our group so that they're sighted on what we're doing. I remember a personal bit of anecdotal, I know, but I was asked to sit on the EDI committee of quite a large organization. And I didn't want it to be because I was the black board member, because EDI wasn't my background. They said it was because of my governance capability. And I said, well, so long as there's the chief execs on the committee, then I'll do it as well. So that was my personal, at the time, requirement of the organization, to make sure the chief exec was there. I would take the role of the chair of the group, but the two of us could work together collectively. One of us doing the strategic stuff, the other one making sure it happened in the organization. So that was quite specific, but you'll deal with it differently depending on your group.
Great, thank you. And just one last part to that. So so am I right in assuming that the sort of CEO representation is someone, a senior sponsor attends the race network meetings?
Yeah, that's right. So,
and we can assume they'll typically not be ethnic minority in most organizations. And is that a positive?
Yes, so you're right. That senior sponsor may be what we use in the race diversity networks. And I, again, don't want to say for every circumstance, here's the rule, but I do want to say in principle that I'd need to have somebody in my group so that we can have that impact, who may not necessarily be from our background. So they may attend, depending on what the group is, and make sure that they're aware. Other times they'll be full members. In the group that I did, for example, I wanted the CEO to be a full member, just like me, in that meeting. Whereas in other circumstances, you may decide to deal with it slightly differently.
Brilliant, thank you. And I could just sum up from our experience of talking to successful race networks and any other networks, is they've got senior sponsorship, and that is a huge success factor. So thank you for that, Karl.
Excellent, thank you, Javid.
I guess this is going to take us, or lead us onto the LEAD acronym.
Yes.
What traits does an effective chair demonstrate?
Yeah, this is really, really important, because the ABC that I discussed earlier helps you to understand what your function is, what your role is. But great chairs and good chairs, and you all have been in meetings where we've got a chair that really, really moves the dial. So my LEAD acronym reminds me of the ones that I've seen that have done best. Start with some kind of, the L is for legacy. You can almost tell what it was they wanted to achieve in their assignment. So on my watch, I want to change the governance. Or on my watch, I want to make sure we're all working together more collectively. Or on my watch, I want to make sure we actually move that dial, we're open and transparent. They have something that they've decided that they want to achieve in their role as a chair. And I think that legacy one's so important, to make sure the chair has thought about it, they understand what they want to do and what they want to achieve. And I link back to that effectiveness early on when I spoke about good governance. And I said that we've got to have purpose, if you remember. Well, I've got another acronym, sorry for this, that's how my brain works. But I've got this PVSC. It goes purpose, strategy, value, culture, all need to be aligned. And the chair has got such a fundamental role in ensuring that they get all of that aligned and then know what legacy they want to get out of the group that they're running. So that's the L bit of our little acronym. I'll move on to the E, which is enthusiasm. Have you ever been in a meeting with the chair who, quite frankly, is boring, quite frankly, is a monotone and just is going through the motions almost? And what difference it takes when you see somebody who's passionate, who empathizes, who kind of seems to get it just by the way they speak and behave, and they've got the right attitude towards the group that they're chairing. I think the enthusiasm of the chair is so important. I've been on meetings where I've chaired and people have said, I don't know what that guy's on, but I'm going with it because he just seems to be so passionate. I remember in doing an organization that we started up some years ago. So, and what I'm suggesting then, that the second key area of how a chair behaves and how a chair carries out their role is to be that enthusiastic chair. I wouldn't underestimate it. The A now is the thing that I think makes sure that there's a cohesive group of people that work together properly and effectively, and that's authority. You know, sometimes I can observe a meeting, and I do that as part of some of the roles that I do in my governance consultancy. We do board observations. And I can tell most of the time, without even asking, although we've been told, who the chair is, just because of the authority that they demonstrate in that meeting. You see, sometimes a meeting could be going out of hand. People will start to discuss, to interrupt. But a good chair is able to say, right, let's just bring everything back in order. This is what we've decided, and this is where we're going next. That authority is demonstrated by the respect of all of the people around the table. And it normally comes from experience, track record, and credibility, but it also comes from confidence. That chair's got to be really confident in carrying out their role by preparing well. Then the last bit is the D, decision making. The chair, on behalf of the group, needs to make sure they pull together collective responses so we understand exactly what we've decided, makes it clear to the minute taker or secretary to say that this is what we decided, this is what we're doing next, and this is how we're going to be made accountable for the decisions that we've made. One of the most important things for us to do, and in the board of an organization, it's normally the highest decision-making authority of an organization. And these resource groups are going to make sure that there's a track, a line, accountability back to the boardroom. So therefore, we've got to understand what the decision-making framework is, and we need to make decisions. So there we have it. We have L for legacy, make sure we understand where we're going. E for enthusiasm. I know it sounds a little bit twee, but we need to have enthusiastic chairs. A is authority. Demonstrate it through your confidence, your preparation, your track record. And then D, don't be scared to make decisions on behalf of the group and get their buy-in, and then make sure we're accountable for them. Lead.